Alright, hello everyone. So I'm going to go over this new update that I'm about to push out for the TBO Backtester. I've been working for the last 2 weeks or so, just trying to update it and get the strategy alerts implemented into the Backtester. Hopefully it'll allow for fewer required alerts. So with the regular TBO study, you have to have an alert for each condition. What I've done for the strategy is I've made it so that you can have 8 different conditions in one alert, basically. So you basically just come down to the bottom and then, choose the condition of the trigger, and you can have up to 8 into one actual alert. So it should help reduce quite a few of the alerts that are required. I've done my best to try and test all the different combinations. There's quite a few, so if you happen to come across something that's not working, just let me know and I'll see if I can fix it. Yeah, so let's jump right into it. Let's start from the top. So I guess one thing to point out here, I'm on the 1 second at the moment, mainly just for testing purposes. I will note that if you are going to be testing the alerts, which I recommend before you do anything live, it's always a good idea to test the alerts and making sure everything is running smoothly and as you think it should. Just, it's a good idea just in general to always do that. I will note for the 1 second, just because it's so quick, I've noticed that the behavior, sometimes you'll get in multiple alerts. So maybe like the most I've seen is 2 alerts when there's only supposed to be 1. But what that I've concluded, that's basically just because it's going so fast that by the time the server actually processes what's happening, that another one just kind of slips through the cracks, because when I tested it on 5 seconds, it worked as expected. So when you're testing things like this, I recommend going no lower than 5 seconds. If you don't have the upper tier trading view plan, then I think 1 minute is the lowest that you can go, so you'll have to use that one instead, which is totally fine. But just wanted to let you know that it's a good idea when you're implementing any kind of alerts or anything like that from the script, just to double check everything is working as intended and firing as intended. And an easy way to do that is just to drop down to a quicker time frame. So 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, yada yada. Alright, so let's jump into the actual new settings and all that fun stuff. So the first thing you'll see now is the new light mode. What this is just a way to try and help and improve performance. It'll hide certain things, so symbols, a lot of the symbols it'll hide, most of the symbols, and then the clouds as well, the support and resistance clouds. So with both of these enabled, it will enable the actual hiding. And then the last thing here, we've got show last. So at the moment the default is set to 1,000, and so it's 1,000 candles. So the TBO will show for 1,000 candles back, and then after that it'll stop showing the plots and all that stuff. And by doing that, it helps reduce the amount of performance needed to actually run the script. And sometimes the TBO, just because there's a lot of data, a lot of signals, a lot of information being processed, it can chug sometimes. So hopefully with this combination, it'll help reduce that and run a little bit easier and smoother and faster and all that fun stuff. So just to show you how it changes, if I turn this off, it'll show the rest of the signals. This is what it looks like, but by default, you'll have the support and resistant lines, and then you also have your open short and open long signals by default. So if you uncheck that, it'll show the rest of the symbols, and then by default the clouds are hidden as well. And so I will show what that looks like, and you'll notice it'll stop up here for the clouds once it's done loading here. Okay, there we go. And you'll see here that it'll go. And let me turn the orders off. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so yeah, you can see that it stops up here, and then I can lower it as well if I want to be even less. If you change it to 0, it'll show everything. So if you want to see all the way back, you can see that it'll go and it'll load everything. And I've added tooltips for a lot of what's available here. So if you are new to the settings and things of that nature, please read the tooltips. It explains what it does and just kind of reminders and all that fun stuff. So let's change this back here. Okay, let's move on down. All this is the same. And what has changed in the triggers, so I've got 2 new triggers. There's the DHP down for the long, and then the DHP up for the short, so you can do static or the moving average either way. You need to make sure that you have these enabled in the actual DHP section, so if you don't have these toggled on, then you're not going to receive any trades, you're not going to actually see anything. And I've got a tooltip here to remind you as well to make sure to enable either one, the static or the MA multiple. And then just like the other signals here or conditions or whatever, you've got the closing option for both of those as well. And they're mapped just like the rest of these are mapped. So open long and open short, this is by default mapped to the reverse of what it is, so the reverse of the condition. So same thing here, static DHP up is going to be mapped to static DHP down. Okay, and then as we move down here, this is really the brunt of the work. This is kind of what took so long, just trying to make sure all the alerts were set up correctly and everything that goes in behind the scenes. So this is geared towards users with 3 commas. However, I have given the option for people who don't use 3 commas to include their own messages simply by enabling the use custom message option, and then you can come in here and type in whatever syntax for whatever platform that you use. You can come in and paste it in here and it'll fire in the alert. And I'll go over this here in just a second as well. Let's start at the top here. So the big thing, I'd say the biggest takeaway from this video, the most important thing to take away, is make sure that you update this field right here, the max open positions. So this needs to equal whatever your pyramiding setting is in your properties. So pyramiding, and if you don't know what pyramiding is, it's basically just allowing the script to open multiple orders. And 0 is the same as 1 as far as TradingView is concerned. If you go over 1, then it'll actually start incrementing how many orders will be allowed to be open. So a perfect example is if you want to have both an open long signal or condition as well as a breakout condition, and you want to have both of those to be able to open, then I would need to come here and change my pyramiding to 2, which will allow 2 open positions at the same time. And then I would need to come down here and make sure that my open positions, my max open positions, are also 2. Even when I was testing, I found myself occasionally forgetting the settings, so I changed how I approach this. As soon as I choose however many conditions I want, so I say, okay, I'm going to have an open long and a breakout in this scenario, I'm going to go directly down here and change this to 2. Just as soon as I know, like boom, boom, okay, I'm coming down here, changing this to 2, and then changing this to 2. That way, it's done, it's taken care of, you know that you're not going to forget it. It's much easier if you just go ahead and change it first rather than changing it last, because then sometimes you forget about it. Okay, and then of course I've got more tooltips as well, so you can kind of see what it says. The email token, if you are not using 3 commas, this doesn't apply to you. If you are using 3 commas, email token is in your bot settings page. It's the long string with the dashes. And really important here as well, I've got a tooltip. It says do not include the double quotes. It looks like this with the quotes and then your key, which is incorrect, and then you need to put in the key without the quotes, and that is correct. So really important, don't put the double quotes with the key or the email token. A lot of these settings here, you're going to have to be extra vigilant to make sure that you're not doing any kind of user errors or anything like that. I'd recommend maybe copy and pasting outside because these are pretty small. So put it in, I don't know, like a text document or something like that. Make sure that it looks correct, and then come in here and paste it in here. That way, because you know when you paste it in here, it's going to do this here, and it's going to get cut off. So you have no idea what's actually getting pasted there. So that's your email token. You can find that in your bot settings page. And I've got mine here. This is my paper account here, but the bot settings and then the JSON commands are here, and you'll find your email token in your JSON command, and it'll say email token. And if you're not familiar with how to connect TradingView to 3 commas, they have tons of documentation that you can read. Just click on here, go to the help section, read the article, and then you'll be good to go. I'm not going to bother going into it just because it's really easy to go to. And you can, they explain everything on their platform. And just in general, we don't get into that kind of information. We don't do any kind of trading advice. We don't talk about how to automate things on your specific platform, just because there's tons of different platforms out there, and I have no idea how all of them work. So I basically say you're gonna have to Google it or search it up, find it on your own terms, because unfortunately I can't keep up with all of them. The only thing I can control is just the technical aspects of the script itself that's on TradingView. The Pine script, basically just these settings here and then access for your username. That's pretty much the only thing that I can do. Even stuff on TradingView here, the platform itself, I have no control of majority of the stuff that's here. I'm unable to help with anything just because we're using TradingView as the platform to share this script. So the only thing I can do is help with the settings and things of that nature. Alright, so if we move down to the settings here, the next section is the auto switch, and the commands that are available, or the conditions that are available for this setting or this section, is the open short and open long. Those are the only 2 conditions that will work with this area here. But what this does is it'll close whatever position that you're in and then start a new position in the opposite direction. So if you're in a long, it will close a long and then open a short. If you're in a short, it'll close a short and then open a long. And all you have to do here, it's already set up as a template. Pretty much all you have to do is put in your bot IDs for both of your bots. However, if you do want to come in here and change the commands, I've made that possible. So you've got 2 options here. You've got one command, which if you go by what's already here, it'll give you a sense of what is going to happen. So kind of like the order of how things are going to happen. So for instance, here the top one for bot ID 1, if you notice here, this one is set to close deal. So you would use this one for closing something, and then maybe if you want it to stop the bot, then you change this to close or stop the bot, or whatever you want. This one here is also saying start deal, so then you'll use your start command for your bot here. Same thing for the bottom area as well. But I don't really think you'll have to change too much there. Really, it's just set up for, okay, you put in your bot IDs and then you're good to go. And then just make sure that this is toggled on as well. And then there's a tooltip here if you want to read that as well. Okay, so the last settings here, the last section is really just the custom alerts. And like I said before, there's up to 8 that you can include into one alert. So 8 different conditions that you can combine together. And then on top of that, you can use your custom message. And this is geared specifically towards 3 commas, but I'm sure there's other platforms with other syntaxes as well. But if you use the custom message, you can come in here and do an array of JSON objects. So the JSON commands, if I just do this here, the JSON commands from your bot will look something like this. So normally if you come in here And if you were to copy and paste your JSON command, it would look like this. You'd have, whatever the JSON in the actual command is, and then you'd have your curly brace and curly brace. Well, if you want to include multiple commands or multiple messages, then it would look like this. You'd have 2 brackets, so an array, or depending on whatever language you use, I know it as an array, and then you would basically come in and do it this way. So it's really important. You've got your JSON command, you've got your first bracket, an open bracket. I would recommend doing this outside of TradingView, copy and paste, and then using a JSON validator. You can look that up on Google, and then copy and pasting it that way. But it's going to be the bracket, open bracket, your JSON, and then a comma, which is basically just saying, okay, we're ready for the next JSON command, and then you paste your other JSON command, and then the closing bracket. So you can even take it a step further and add in multiple, if you want to command multiple bots, you can do it that way as well. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go over this here, the first one, and then I'll do just some brief alert combinations, and then that'll pretty much be it. Okay, so make sure that these are enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and enable this one. And then your bot ID is self-explanatory. It's the bot ID that's in your JSON object. The delay is used for when you're trying to control, let's say you have a composite bot and you're wanting to do an open and a close, or maybe 2 bots or something, or you're doing a long and a short in the futures market, or whatever. The delay needs to be there whenever you're controlling a pair and you're closing the deal and then opening the deal for the same pair or something like that. There needs to be a delay in between there. Otherwise, by the time 3 commas is, or the time it takes for 3 commas to actually receive the signal, close the deal, and then start a new one, by then the other included command or whatever that's coming in next, it won't actually read that because it was in the process of doing something else. So here in the tooltip, I explained that the safest item, or the safest number, is 10 seconds. So these are in seconds. And the minimum that I would ever do is probably 5, and that's pushing it. So the safest one is 10. And then obviously, if you don't have to worry about, if you're just starting a deal, or starting the bot or whatever, then you can change it to 0 and just have it just instantly start. But by default, it's set to 10. The command here, these are for the commands for the actual bot, the JSON bot, or sorry, the JSON commands. The map to is the actual trigger for the condition of the alert. So you'll come in here, and so for instance here, let's just do just a simple open long and then close the long with the short. Then if I want to have the alert for whenever there's an open long, then I just set this to open long. Next is the alert type, and you can do once per bar close or once per bar. The difference here is once per bar close will only fire an alert when the condition is true at the end of the bar. If the condition is still true, once per bar will fire whenever the condition is true no matter what. So that means that if there's a false positive, if the condition was true, but then because of price action it then became untrue, as soon as it turns true, that alert's going to fire. It doesn't matter, it's just going to fire. So you'll have to decide how you want to use it. I typically use once per bar close because I know then that it was true at the end of the bar, and therefore it really was a true condition. And also the backtester uses once per bar close also. It requires, the only way to use the actual backtester is if the true condition was true by the close of the bar. That's the only way that it knows. So if you want to match up with the backtester, then you would want to do once per bar close. Next, we've got the ignore open position, and if you turn this on, it'll basically ignore any open positions, so it'll be treated just like on the other version of the TBO, the study. It fires alerts no matter what. It'll always, whenever there's a true condition, it'll just, it'll fire it. It doesn't keep track of the positions or anything like that. And then lastly, we've got the use custom message, and then you can come in here and put in whatever message you want. So I'll come in and put in hello just for this example here. And let me change this to 1 just to make sure that everything is matching. And again, this can be 0 if you're only doing 1. It's the same thing as TradingView is concerned. Okay, let me just double check here. Open long, close along with the short command, map to the long. Now we scroll down, and that's good. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and it has finished loading. Now, another really, really big important thing here is when you're changing your condition, the default is going to say order fills and alert function calls. You do not want to use this. I repeat, you do not want to use this. The only option that you want to use is the alert function calls only. If you use order fills only or the order fills and alert function calls, these are going to be all over the place. The problem with the strategy alerts, the default strategy alerts, is you get all this mess down here. It doesn't tell you which alert that fired. It doesn't tell you anything that's really useful. All it does is it updates the positions. So whenever there's an order filled, it says, okay, this order was filled at this price, blah, blah, blah. And the new strategy position is X, which I would say 9 times out of 10 isn't helpful at all. So that's the same for both of these here. And another problem here is if you use this with the function calls, then you're going to be getting both of these, which is not what you want. You're going to get all this nonsense down here, but then also the function calls, which is what you do want. So it's just going to be a mess. So again, you want to make sure that you have alert function calls only. That's the only one that you'll ever use. And then down here, you can have whatever you need for it, for whatever the condition, whatever alert that you're making. For testing, I've just got it set to open-ended and show pop-up, and then you put it here. You give it a go, and it'll load here, and it should fire on the next open long. And let's see what it does. It shouldn't take too long here since we're on the 1 seconds. It'll take a couple seconds, and then I think that should be it. If you're new to the backtesting area in general, I highly recommend checking out this icon right here. It is the help section. You can go down and read through all of the settings and all that fun stuff that the backtester, the strategy, everything that TradingView controls, they go in depth of explaining what is actually involved in the the backtester here. We don't control any of this. Unfortunately, we can't really tap into any of this. This is all controlled by TradingView. So, all right, let's go. Boom. Come on, go on up. Here we go. I think we'll get one here in just a second. And you'll see, I think I did yeah, there we go. So you'll see here that it puts in your name for the alert, and then I have the custom message enabled as well. Let's see here. Let's do sorry, I keep saying it's a bad habit. An advanced example. So let's use the multiple conditions. So let's say breakout. I want to on an open long, so I'm going to do an open long. I want to do another long on the breakout. I want to close the breakout with a closed long, so the blue diamond. So I'm going to close my breakout there. But if a short position opens up or a short condition appears, then I want to close everything just to make sure that I'm out of all conditions. So I've set my open long triggers. What do we want to do? Scroll all the way down here. Boom. Go ahead and put 2 because that's how many open positions I have for this particular side. So it's if you were to have two short positions as well, it would still be 2 because it's for each side here, and you're only going to have one side going at a time. So let's see here. So I'm going to change this to 2. And then let's go down and set the custom alerts. So I've got an open long condition, which is already set. So I'll remove that. I'm going to have that start my deal. This will be bot 1. And then for my custom, got the, so technically this would probably be, well, it could be another bot. It could be the same bot. I'm just going to have separate bot IDs that will act, so we can just see that there's a difference in the actual alert message that shows. So I'm going to change this. This is going to be my breakout. So we'll change this to breakout. I'm going to do another deal here. Start deal. Okay, and then this is going to be where I'm closing my breakout with my close long. So I'll close long here. And this is going to close the deal. Okay. And then down here, speed number 4. Let's say I want to close all my bots on the close, or sorry, the open short. So I'm going to come down here. And then this would be my Json command with, so it would close that bot, and then it would close this bot. Yeah. And if you're not aware of the white spacing here, you don't have to do this. I just do it just to try and keep it neat, make it so it's neat. White space doesn't matter in JSON, so you should be okay. And hello, got another one. All right, so this will load, and we should see updates here in just a moment. There we go. And what I'll do now, and if you're not familiar with how the pyramiding works for TradingView, there is no, the way it's set up at the moment, there's no order of operations or anything like that. So what that means is if there's an open long, and I've got, so if we just go back here and look, my conditions are open long and then breakout. If there's no breakout signal between, let's say there's an open long here and there was no breakout, but then another open long appeared, it would open a position here for the open long, and then it would open another position for another open long. So just keep that in mind when you're setting things up. Okay, so we'll change our alert, go down here, change the condition to the new condition, and we're going to change this to the alert function calls only. And I'm not entirely sure how long this is going to take for it to actually fire. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but let's scroll back here and just kind of get an idea. Now, when you're looking at the rest of the candle history, the trades that you see are going to actually go all the way back to the beginning of the script. The only thing that the light mode controls at the top here is just whatever the plots of the TBO itself. That's the only thing that these will control here. Okay, so we just had an open long fire, and as you can see, I've got my email token with all of this gibberish, but it did the command for the deal start command. So all you had to do is put in your bot ID, your email token, and then it handles the rest. And then if we get a breakout signal, maybe we'll get one off of this. Maybe it'll go rather quickly. Nice thing about the 1 second is when you're testing, it is nice, but again, if you have conditions, sometimes the server, it processes, or it happens so fast that you may get 2 alerts on, for instance, like open long. On 5 seconds, it's fine. It doesn't actually do that. It's just because it's happening so fast, I think. So here we've got an open short, and there we've got our custom message to close all of our bots. We didn't get any breakouts in that particular run there, but I think you get the idea by now. You can come in here, you can do different combinations of all of the items and conditions that are available. So just come in here, make sure that you test before you go live. play with the different conditions, and yeah, I think that should be it. So just wanted to kind of go over this. This is going to be the last big update for the TBO backtester. I'm also going to make some changes to the DBO study, just to kind of include the light mode as well and things like that. But this is going to be the last big update for the TBO for a while. But I wanted to get the alerts in there just because I think it would help with the reducing the amount of alerts that are actually required for different conditions and scenarios and all that good stuff. So alrighty, well, I hope you guys have some good trades in the future, and thanks for watching. All right.